We look at the results of our poll in the race for governor. Senator Mike Braun 11 points ahead of Jennifer McCormick in our poll with Emerson College recently. We'll have them both in our studio for a live debate Wednesday night. Donald Rainwater needed 10% to qualify. He only had 6 in our recent poll. Another poll this week showed the race even closer than that 11-point gap. Let's bring in our panel right now to preview this week's debates. For the Democrats, we have former state party chair Robin Winston. For the Republicans, Tony Samuel, who was vice chair of the Indiana Trump campaign in 2016. Along with the professors, Martin Sweet from Purdue and UIndy's Laura Wilson. So Laura, I'll start with you. 2 debates this week, one with Donald Rainwater, one without. Then you'll be moderating a 3rd debate in late October. How important are these debates as Democrats try and get back into the governor's office for the first time in 20 years?
Well, they're certainly important. They help educate and inform voters, no doubt. And it's more than a sanitized, scripted version that you get in those 30 or 60-second ad buys, right? Like, you get to really hear where the candidates stand on issues. They get to face each other. But I think one of the tricky things is not everyone, of course, watches the debates. So the impact of making them both educational and informative, but also entertaining. Right. And as voters are already starting to mark their ballots, there's an emphasis on making those decisions early, and for the candidates trying to get their opinion out there and getting that appeal to influence the voters early too.
Early voting gets started here very soon. Martin, let's talk about this third-party factor. Donald Rainwater got 11% in 2020, but only about half that in our poll, which means he doesn't qualify for our debate on Wednesday. Is there still a potential that he plays something of a spoiler role in the race this year?
It'd be difficult for him to play a spoiler race given that it's Braun, right? I think Braun's position within the Republican Party is, for lack of a better term, more Trump-like and less establishment. And I think someone like Rainwater would really, could possibly play a spoiler if it was more an establishment candidate. So I think based on that it's Braun, I don't expect this to go any other way than to see a Governor Braun come November.
Meantime, Braun and McCormick both unveiling some policy plans this past week on health care and the economy, respectively. So, Tony, what are you watching for Wednesday night? What does Mike Braun need to show to voters in terms of specifics to hold on to this lead and close out this race?
Well, he's been putting out several policy proposals, including health care, lowering the cost of health care, which is probably our #1 issue, along with the property taxes, the plan that he put out with Micah Beckwith, weeks ago, and then also education. So he will now have the opportunity to inform even more voters, and he's very poised. Look for her to be a little more chippy and a little more attacking, because she's got to do that. She's got to do something to cut into that lead. But remember, back in 2018, when he was in a 3-way primary for Senate, the 2 congressmen were going at it and going at him because he had built a lead. Yeah. He handled it very well. He'll do the same, and I think he'll widen the gap after the debates.
Robin, what are you and other Democrats hoping to see from Jennifer McCormick to make this a close race this year? A couple internal polls have shown it could be a close race. Ours had about an 11-point gap. What are you hoping to see from her on Wednesday night?
Well, I think she's going to show Indiana what we all know, that she's going to lay out common sense proposals in a variety of areas. The most recent one was on economic development and jobs, where it was a more holistic approach to actually talk about the workers instead of just the green fields and the smokestacks and those things chasing them. I also think you're going to see a priority on education. That's her forte. She understands it better than anybody else. One candidate is called, or her opponent Braun has called for opening the vouchers to everybody regardless of income. Just this morning, Dan, Hamilton Southeastern announced that they have fiscal issues in their school district. So if a district like that, home of the speaker, is having financial problems, we need to look at how we're funding public education.
All right, so again, our debate is on Wednesday night. There's also a vice presidential debate on Tuesday night, and it's a Midwest matchup between Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. By the way, it's the first VP debate without Mike Pence since 2012, right? When then Vice President Biden took on Paul Ryan some 12 years ago. And Laura, this year it's shaping up to be a really close race for the White House. This may be the last debate. We don't know if we'll see another presidential debate or not. So how important is this particular matchup on Tuesday? Well,
it certainly matters, right? I think the important thing here for voters is the virality of the comments that the candidates make. Because people that are watching a vice presidential debate are probably really into politics to begin with.
They may see it after the fact, maybe not that night.
Exactly, but what are the highlights? What are the lines, like the eating cats and dogs, if you will, that people are going to keep repeating? And no doubt the candidates are practicing what those are. They want them to look favorably on their candidate. The #1 rule of a vice president is do no harm, and that's what they're trying to do on Tuesday night.
Martin, both of these men hoping to be vice president are somewhat new to the national scene with very different styles. What are each of their strengths, do you think, in a format like this?
Well, we've seen with J.D. Vance that he is incredibly bright, but he's also can be a bit caustic. Right? I would expect to see him be reminded of some of his earlier comments about Donald Trump, and maybe even some of his more recent comments as well. Walz has tried to become effectively sort of a cheerleader. I think he tried to get sort of the weird label going as in a viral way. I expect they'll try to do those things too. I think though the thing that most viewers kind of tune out some of the canned comments, and I would actually be looking for sort of the unexpected, right? The sort of thing when George H.W. Bush looked at his watch, looked bored, right? Is there something that happens during the debate that draws attention away, other than these sort of planned comments?
Like a fly buzzing around the
Could be
studio?
a fly
that
on a
happened
head
last time, yeah.
Right.
Going back to Mike Pence there. Tony, we just mentioned how this may be the last debate. But should it be? Do you think former President Trump should change his mind and do another debate with Vice President Harris?
That's a tough one. I don't think he should, because she, proved to be able to handle rhetoric and 2-minute responses and attack him. He stuck to the issues, and he would do that again. So in a way, it will depend on his instincts. He's got the best instincts in politics, I think. That's why he is where he is. So it could change, but I'm not going to be sad if it doesn't. Now, the issues are clearly on his side, and I should just mention that ICE came out with a report today, earlier this week, I should say, and over 425,000 known criminals have entered the country in the last 3 years. Another 200,000 with pending charges, 16,000 homicides, and 14,000 sexual assaults. And these are folks that are, on the issues, he's been right about that all the time, and that's what will matter.
Kamala Harris visiting the border on Friday. Robin, what's your response to all of that? Do you think that we may see another matchup between Trump and Harris on the debate stage? She's accepted a debate from CNN in late October. He said it may be too late. What do you think is going to happen?
I'm going to try to be respectful of your time. Yes, we should debate again. You're going to spend $2 billion to be leader of the free world. But when we could have addressed the border issue, Donald Trump got on the phone and shot it down among Republican senators. I hope voters will keep that in mind. We wanted to address it. He made sure that they shut it down.
All right, coming up next, Indiana rescue workers on the scene in Florida dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene this weekend. We'll hear about their mission coming up right after this.